Hello, my name is Twinkle, and today I'll be talking about the ongoing global food crisis, what are its reasons, and which are the countries affected by it. To understand just how big this problem is, let's look at some numbers. According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, the global food price index jumped up by 12% in March 2022, the highest rise in 30 years. The World Trade Organization has also slashed its growth forecast for goods trade from 4.7% to 3%. These goods include staple items like wheat, corn, soybean, and sunflower oil. And the most worrying thing is that these extremely high inflationary figures are a reminder of one of the worst global food crises faced in 2007 and 8. Let's understand why this is happening. We all know that Russia and Ukraine are engaged in a war against each other. But what we don't know is that together, both these countries contribute more than 25% of market share for the world's wheat. They also supply 20% of corn exports and 80% of sunflower oil exports. But hold on, the war started in late February, and so how come inflation rose to such high levels in just 2 months? Well, that's because the war has added fuel to the fire of already burning issues like COVID 19 and climate change. Even before the war, prices were already high because the pandemic disrupted supply chains across the globe, created labor shortages, and pushed poor countries into high amounts of debt. Add to this famines and droughts across Canada, Argentina, and many African nations, which led to increased food insecurity. Now, let's get back to the war, make things simple, and focus on wheat as a commodity. Now, Ukraine, one of the top five wheat exporters, cannot export because its important seaports of Kherson, Mykolaiv, and Odessa are in the Russian forces' radar. And it's important to know that these ports are located on the Black Sea coast, which is a very important trade route connecting Ukraine to some of its major wheat buyers. Now, even Russia cannot export, which is the largest exporter of wheat, because it is facing heavy Western sanctions against it. This implies that more than a quarter of the world's wheat supplies are cut off overnight. So, exactly which countries buy wheat from Russia and Ukraine? First off, Egypt, the most populous country within the Middle East and North Africa, produces 10 million tons of wheat per year and imports the remaining 80% of its supplies from Russia and Ukraine. Then, Turkey, which imported 74% of its wheat from the warring countries in 2019. Furthermore, Middle Eastern and North African countries of Lebanon, Libya, Yemen, and Azerbaijan are some of its buyers. An interesting observation here would be that none of these buyers are first world countries, which means it's the poor countries who are facing the brunt of a war which has nothing to do with them. So, in this case, why can't we just buy wheat from alternative producers? Hmm, let's look at India, the world's second biggest wheat producer. The Indian Agriculture Ministry announced that the country could produce 111 million tons of wheat in February 2022. This could easily be exported while also maintaining enough supply for its own citizens. But, well, the world doesn't always work the way we want it to. The problem with the Indian government's wheat supplies is that these grains are purchased from the farmers at subsidized prices, which are lesser than the market rate, sold internationally for a profit, clearly undercutting other suppliers. More specifically, the subsidies given by the Indian government to the farmers to produce wheat exceed the 10% threshold set by the World Trade Organization. And so, Western nations like the US oppose these exports in the World Trade Organization. Other countries to buy the crop from would be the US and Canada, but they themselves have faced extreme weather conditions in the past 1 or 2 years, which ruined a lot of their harvests. Despite that, they do have a surplus of wheat, but they would rather protect it for domestic use amidst the volatile market conditions and crop uncertainties across the board. Now, at this point, it becomes very fascinating to understand the crux of this food problem. It's not that the physical grain supplies have completely run out. It's that their prices are extremely high because countries fear that the supply might run out. To understand this better, we need to understand the importance of wheat as a commodity and how countries trade this grain amongst each other. Unlike rice, wheat crops do not use a lot of water for their production, and once it is harvested, the crop can be stored for longer periods of time. making it a very viable option for farmers. It is used to make essential food items like bread, pasta, couscous, and so many bakery items. So, one Egyptian for whom 35 to 39% of calorie intake comes just from wheat, these import shortfalls and a very high price of bread becomes a major issue. Think about Yemen, which has been facing multiple wars, famines, and the economy is highly unstable. People of Yemen anyway depend on aid shipments and wheat imports from Ukraine and Egypt. And in this context, when Egypt puts a ban on its produce, where do these people go? Likewise, for many small countries like this, the Russian invasion puts a question mark on their next meal. Finally, let's understand how and why these commodity prices fluctuate so wildly. The commodities, just like any other financial assets, are traded through a stock exchange board like London Stock Exchange in the UK or Nasdaq in the US. Unlike equity markets, where a person can buy a singular share of a company, earn profits and losses based on the company's performance, food commodities are traded in the futures market. Futures is a way of trading in which the traders enter into a contract today for a predetermined price for the future. And due to the nature of the commodities, traders can only buy them in bulk and have to pay a small fee to finalize the futures contract. There are various factors which make it hard to predict the food commodity prices. Like I mentioned earlier, wheat producing regions are either facing extreme weather conditions affecting the yield of the crop or the varying levels of demand and supply in emerging markets like the Middle East, North Africa, and India, where wheat is a staple for growing populations. Put together, the Russian invasion of Ukraine is worsening the already high prices of food in a very volatile commodities market, throwing the global economy into shocks that will take years to recover from. Thank you.